to the Concert Queen Connect, a very special episode. I know I keep saying that, everyone, but everyone is special. So happy to have KD Kinetic. Welcome.
Hello.
So for those of you that are not familiar, you probably don't recognize her, first off, because this is probably the least amount of costume, makeup, decorative outfit that I think I've ever seen with you, as far as outfits. But she is a performance artist in Austin, and I'm sure, how would you describe yourself to people that are not familiar with you?
I use the umbrella term performance artist.
Okay.
And I also identify with like costuming, makeup, curating shows, but the umbrella term, but the cover it all is performance artist.
Performance artist director.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. So Katie and I had the pleasure of, we were at the Austin Music Awards, and that was the last time I've seen you, like, in person. I know.
Yeah.
And we were like the Vanna Whites in handing out awards. But one of the things, so you'll see Katie, and the first place I was Steve and I were talking about this, like the first place we actually saw you was at, a Vibe Vessel event, and you were performing and you were on stage and some elaborate costume. And I'm saying, like, these costumes, y'all, are like not just like something you'll get at like a Halloween store. These are like custom costumes to the nth degree, where not only is she in the outfit, but she's like taking on that character. And like one of the ones I'm going to bring up that I remember was like your Grinch costume. Since during the Christmas time. The Grinch costume, y'all, she had like the green hair, and we'll put pictures and stuff like that so people can see this as we're talking. But
oh God,
where does that come from? Like, where have you just this love of costumes and dressing up? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I started kind of doing that when I was pretty young. I got really into photography and self-portraits when I was 12, and so 12, 13. So over my teenage years, I would like dress up and do my makeup and get into these weird characters as like a form of teenage angst therapy. And then as I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, this is something that people actually do. So now I would say a lot of my inspiration comes from like club kids and drag queens and like, I don't even know how to explain, just like otherworldly beings. I also just love taking something like the Grinch that's seen as this like gross, ugly character and putting like a nasty, sexy twist on it. I like making things creepy and sexy, but somewhat like fun, and you're just confused. Like you're like,
yes,
I don't know how to feel.
I'm scared, but I'm turned on, but I'm not really sure exactly. I think
I want this, but I don't know why. But yeah, I've learned a lot of my most like recent costume hacks and stuff from a lot of drag queens and club kids and like queer. Cat interference happening. Club kids and drag queens and just the gay nightlife scene in general has been a huge inspiration. And then I also, as a kid, I did dance. And I think being in like dance makeup and costumes when you're like a little girl instilled this thing in me that I really enjoyed. And I've just taken it from there and was a half-naked, sexy, gross Grinch.
Well, and with these costumes as well, I feel like they're with you in particular, and this is what I was telling you before, I think just makes you so special and so unique compared to all the other performers that are out there, which is why she's on this show, is the fact that you are fearless and you take risks and you own it. And I admire that. And I think that's something where in a society where as females, we're being taught to be pretty, don't be ugly, don't be that girl that you have to beautify yourself to society standards. I feel like you take it in a direction and you're just, like you said, sexy, creepy, but you take it to that level where you just own it. And so where does that kind of confidence come from, and how do you channel that for your performances?
I think some of it comes from, this is kind of, so when I experienced some traumatic stuff, and then as a way to like heal, I forced myself at what I call like exposure therapy. I'm not a therapist or a doctor, so don't follow what I say, but it's just what I did. And I forced myself to be in these like really sexy costumes, and it allowed me to own my power and sort of take my power back. And then I also have this perception of makeup and hair and clothes as it's all a costume and it's all a choice. It's not something that I have to do. And so I can be whoever I feel like being in that moment. If I feel like being a really sexy little Red Riding Hood that's feeding you strawberries, and then the next night I want to be a bearded lady, and then the next night I want to be whatever, a naked Grinch, or like a weird hallucination, which is another costume I've done. I see it as like interchangeable parts of myself, and almost, I'm rambling, I'm sorry.
No, you're not rambling at all.
Like I'm amplifying different parts of myself. I'm like pulling from different experiences I've had, or I'm claiming ownership over my sexuality and over like my idea of being sexy and what that means to me. And I think also it's sort of just a rebellious spirit that's in me. That's like, you can't stop me. I'm going to do this, awesome. You know, and yeah, that's where some of it comes from. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, but it really is inspiring. And, you know, I've talked about it on this show and just different things growing up with me and not being self-conscious like, you know, most females are. And that's where I feel like you really kind of rise above everything like that and channeling that. And it's very inspiring because I'm like, damn, like you see some things and I'm like, she just did the damn thing. And she is this sexy Riding Hood. And then she's this Grinch. And then she's like the bearded lady. I remember that. I was like, oh my God, she's dressed up as this. So when you see Katie, she gets into full character and she's performing with different artists and different people. And for you, I know, so you did have a stint, right? You worked with the House of Yes in New York. Mm-hmm. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that was really fun. Oh, and one thing I wanted to add too was all of my costuming and my my artistic expression. A lot of it is also a way for me to cope with like mental health or trauma, or like maybe I just want to feel a fantasy, and I'm tired of like this clusterfuck. I don't know if we can cuss.
You can cuss.
Thing that we live in. I'm tired of it, and I want to be this other thing. And when you're creating a look and you're creating a costume, you learn about yourself in the process, and you're forced to like trust the process, because as you are getting ready, there's always a point where you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And then you're like, this is kind of weird. And then you push through that and you're like, no, I can do this. And then by the time you get to the end of the look, you're like, you know what? It's pretty good.
So what's an example of something that you've done like that?
Oh my God, definitely with the Grinch.
Oh,
for sure. I was getting ready. I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? But it was also, it's so fun and messy and like, yeah, we were painting me and I was like, what is happening? But then I ended up loving like how grimy it was, or just when I'm doing my makeup in general, you know, at the end of a makeup, when you're doing your makeup, you kind of look ridiculous in the process. I feel like anybody that puts on makeup knows, you know, like whenever you just have your foundation on and you don't have anything else, it's like a ghost, right? So imagine like trying to turn yourself into something sexy and you're like halfway through and it's like one eye's done. It's just not.
Yeah, I've watched your like time lapses when you do that and you see the whole process. And I'm just like, damn, that is a lot of work. That is a lot of makeup. So do you have like formal training with that, or is that just all self-taught?
It's therapeutic. It's pretty much all self-taught. YouTube tutorials and friends and fellow performers giving me hacks over the years of like, this is how you like put on an eyelash, and like if you use this powder with this, you get this effect. So basically like community, and then also the internet.
Yeah.
Kind of. And experimentation. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so then like you said, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just know you had another question and I totally brought
it was about the House of Yes. No, you're fine.
Yeah, I worked at the House of Yes for about 2 years, And that is where I learned the most and grew the most as an artist, as a person, and as a performer. It was a phenomenal, crazy, beautiful experience. And my getting a job there was an accident. It was like one of those New York stories where you're like, oops, and now I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess we're doing this.
Yeah. So let's, for people that aren't familiar, House of Yes is its own, I mean, I'll let you describe it since you've been there, but how would you describe House of Yes to people that aren't familiar with that?
House of Yes is like a circus, nightclub, and also a venue. So you can go see a circus show earlier in the evening, say at like 7 or 8. And then once the clock strikes 10, then it turns into a full-blown nightclub, and there's aerialists in the nightclub. There's dancers. They'll do like surprise choreography performances. It also used to be a restaurant, like lounge, and people have their weddings there. It's a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Oh, I hear the kitty. Okay, so then you said it was kind of like a New York dream. How did you get involved with them?
I went to New York and just to see the city, and I was like, okay, my goal is to perform one time. And if I can perform one time in New York, I will be happy, and I will go back to Texas and be like, I did it. So I met a performer friend there who happened to be there. Her name's Emma Dilemma, and they're also from Texas. And we met up, and Emma had a connection and was like, oh, we can go help at this nightclub called House of Yes. And I was like, okay, sure. And so we put on the costumes that we had, and we went. And then I was helping with, backstage stuff. And then this woman just looks at me, and she was like, Are you a professional performer? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, send me your resume and your reel. I was like, okay. And so I was actually finishing my resume and my reel when I got to New York. And so I was like, finished it really fast, and I sent it to her. And she ended up being one of the creative directors and one of the co-founders. And then she put me in this show called Ketamine the Musical. And
oh my God.
And then from there, it just took off. I ended up working with the costume closet and helping with the costumes and performing. And then they were like, you should move here. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh. So how long were you there?
Surreal.
Yeah. And how long were you there?
About 2 years. And the only reason I left is because I got injured. And I was just the New York lifestyle with all the walking and whatnot. I just couldn't do it. And so I left on good terms, and I love all those people dearly. And I would go back. I'll go back as soon as COVID's done and go off. But yeah, there was no like bad blood or anything. I just was like, physically, I need to be in Texas because it's more accessible to live here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was my New York saga.
New York dream. Well, it's such a staple, and I can only imagine, like you said, with it being so iconic in that city, and then to have that kind of story, it was just like, sounds like it was just meant to be.
It was crazy. Yeah, I don't know. The universe was like, here, you want to perform in New York? Here,
let me learn something. Let's give you the mecca of performing.
Yeah, and House of Yes, the creative directors are women, which was so empowering for me to see women in the position of being the boss and being like, okay, being stern and confident and unafraid of their own ideas was really, really cool. I learned a lot from them. Kay and Anya. I love them.
I can only imagine. So taking that, you have been not only, this amazing performer and performance artist and with makeup and hair and all these things, but you, I would say, and this is what we were talking about before, to me are, and I'm sure there's other people that you could name, but Katie's been such a figurehead and a leader in activism and community in Austin. So you were like one of the first people I always see that's posting about something, that's pushing people, during voting or whenever there's some type of anything that comes up, like you're the first person to take a stance and the first person to start rallying, and again, just rallying people for whatever it is. And so tell us more about that, because I feel like that is, if you haven't, like I said, we'll have links and everything so you can see Katie, but she is just so, to me, like I said, I just admire that about you so much. So I'd love to learn like where that comes from.
I think I don't know. I have like a really fiery, passionate spirit, and I don't like to see people hurting. I think a lot of it comes from childhood and having to stand up for myself a lot. And then, you know, when I see things going not well, I just am like, why would I sit here and not do anything? I just like it doesn't it physically like weighs on me. And I also think too, like, it's weird. I think there's a lot of really like amazing activists and artists, and I think I am like a conventional looking cis white woman, and so I am more trusted by society and easier to listen to. And so I hope that because of that, maybe I can get through to some people that would otherwise turn the other way if somebody else were to be speaking, which is unfortunate, but I hope that I can like plant a seed or something, you know. And I also think too, like, showing that action is accessible. Like, it's not, you don't have to go through like a 5-step process all the time of going to a charity. You can do something, even if it's small. If a lot of people do one small thing, then a huge change can happen. And I've always been very bold and loud about things that I care about since I was like a teenager. It's just kind of instilled in me. It can be good and it can be bad, but yeah. And I also feel like too, I just am like, you know, if I'm going to be sitting here being like, look at me, I'm doing stuff, I don't want it to all just be about me, because there's so many other amazing, cool things happening, or organizations or people that deserve attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of look at it as like, how can I use my ability to hold people's attention to get them to look at something else? Wow. You know, like, how can I navigate that with comedy, or with just being like really raw and emotional, or through like a creative expression of some sort. Yeah. I'm sorry I talk so much.
Oh my God, you're fine. This is what we're talking. So you, with everything that you're doing too, and you mentioned this, but I do feel like you are so passionate, and that comes out and across in everything that you do. And I think that's really cool that you said you're literally using that. And I think that's where people can get the wrong idea sometimes. Like, people, I know I've had that happen to me where, yes, I know a picture of me. You will, at least, you know me, people connect to me, but then it's like I'm bringing awareness to something else. So I completely agree with you and understand, like, and I didn't even really think about that, but you're right. Like, if you're able to draw that attention somehow, whether, you know, you're just captured, because people's attention spans right now are just so short. So it takes even more and more extreme measures to get their attention, and to do that in the way that you're doing it. And that's where, you know, I connected with KD obviously through the music scene and through the music community, but I feel like you've really done an amazing job of connecting not only to the music community, but to the, you know, the LGBTQ community and all these various, like you said, I didn't even think about that. But I try not to see race, and I typically don't, but to understand, you're like, I have this privilege in this sense that you feel like you have, and to use that to channel, to have a voice for other people that don't, is amazing. And I think you exemplify that too, with just, I remember just recently you had someone right in your neighborhood. This was it, like an elderly person that needed help with like COVID supplies, and you ended up just last minute, like kind of getting a fundraiser together, and overwhelmed with support. So tell people about that.
Yeah, so this particular person, I work with Austin Mutual Aid, and so I've learned a bit about mutual aid and how to like support people in the community through that. And I think I don't know. I just saw this woman she's sitting by herself all the time, and I was like, she's not panhandling, but she's unhoused. You know, there's a story there, you know. And I just went up to her and I was just like, hey, like, what's up? My name's Katie. How are you? Like, how's it going? Let's just talk because you're a person.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and she told me some of her story, and I saw that she was coloring. She had like coloring books, and I was like, oh, you love to color. Like, let me get you some art supplies, because that's like the least I can do. You know, I don't unfortunately have the kind of funds to just buy this woman a house, but I'm like, I can at least bring you some creative relief. And so I just kind of posted on my Instagram story, and I was like, hey, met this person, they need stuff. If you Venmo me, I'll get the stuff and deliver it. And then people thankfully trust me and sent me close to like $300 or something like
just
that.
like that.
And I was able to use some of that for her, and then another portion of it for another unhoused person that's down the street from me. I don't know. It's just like the little actions like that. Like, if more people believed that they could make an impact just by doing these small little things, then a lot of community members' lives would be easier.
Yeah.
Or at least like they would have a little bit of relief. You know, and I think too, we also have this idea that like you need a huge platform to like really make an impact. Like, you need to be like Ariana Grande or fucking Lady Gaga, which like you don't. You know, I'm not like some ultra famous human being, but I'm just like, well, I know people that are in this community. I know people that care, and I feel like people want to do something, they just don't know where to start.
Exactly.
So let me like try to start somewhere. And you know, there's room for mistakes, you know. Like,
yeah.
It's not going to go well every time. You might get somebody the wrong thing or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just saw this woman, and I think she told me she's like 70 something, or she's in her late 60s, and she lives on the street, and I'm just like, unacceptable. This is,
yeah.
You know, the least I can do is bring you something. So I go and I hang out with her every so often and whatnot. But yeah, I just think, I don't know, you just got to do it.
But that's where the fearlessness comes from. And like you said, I think and I mean, I'll say it too. Like I'm one of those people that I want to help everybody. I want to do everything I can, but I also am sometimes like, oh, I don't want to commit to this because I'm what if there's something else I could be helping, or I don't want to oversaturate, or it just becomes one of those, and you want to, again, vet these things out. Like I'm sure you have, and you know, like these people. So there's people that that people should trust, and that's why they do support you. But I do think that there's people out there that put different charities but I do think there is something to be said about just getting started with it and doing, like you said, just putting the time to sit down and do the research, because there's leaders and then there's also the followers. But I feel like you're the leader that people need to follow, and to know like, okay, if I know that if I donate something or if I do something, it's going to go to the right cause, which kind of leads me into what is happening on Saturday.
Oh God.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Katie is doing a 24-hour fundraiser.
Woo!
24 hours.
24 hours long. 24 hours straight.
Hot damn. That's a long time. Are you going to be like going? I feel like it's like one of those marathons. I don't know if you've seen like those different shows where the people are just like zombies, just trying to stay awake.
You know, it'll probably get like that towards the end. It's called, the fundraiser's called Two Gays Fundraise, and it's me and my co-host Olaf, and it was his idea. He texted me and was like, hey, let's do this. I was like, you're insane. And he was like, let's do it. And he just kept coming out. I was like, all right, dude, let's do it. Let's do it. So we're going to be doing something different every single hour for 24
every single
hours.
hour?
Yeah. We have we're releasing the schedule soon, and we're raising money for 6 different organizations. I have them listed here. So we're raising money for, we each pick 3. Indigenous Women Rising, which they provide sex education and abortion access to Native women. Black Trans Rent Relief, which just they distribute $500 to X amount of Black trans people every month. Anthony Evans, his GoFundMe, he was shot this summer during the Black Lives Matter protests with a non-lethal bullet in the jaw. So he
is this the one here in Austin?
Reconstructive surgery. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's 21.
Oh my God, I
totally
have goosebumps.
wasn't doing anything.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never saw the follow-up to that. Oh my goodness. So what happened, like what she's saying, it was a pretty big deal, and not those other 2, again, very, very highly important things. But that was like a follow-up to that. So it was here in Austin. It was very peaceful. It was a big thing because there's actual video of it happening where it shows this kid standing on a hill and gets
that was actually somebody else.
Oh my goodness. Well, the fact that it's even happening like that, like you said, is insane.
That you are even able to confuse which young person got shot by ATD is a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that shouldn't
my God. Wow.
A discussion, unfortunately it is.
Yeah. So like you said, that I had no idea that there was another person. Yeah. Oh my God. That's terrible.
He's still getting reconstructive surgery, which is expensive. So we're raising money for his GoFundMe.
Mm-hmm.
And then Out Youth, they provide all kinds of really amazing services for young queer kids. And then Black Trans Femmes for the Art Collective, they create spaces for Black trans femmes to create art. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then the Center for Black Equity, all of these organizations, we're going to split the money up. We're not making a dime. We're splitting it all up and sending it to them. So my goal is for us to make $100 an hour. That's the baseline goal. Hopefully we can surpass that. We have a lot of stuff planned.
24 hours of, wow. Well, those are all amazing organizations. How did you narrow it down just to those 6? Because there's so many.
It was hard. At first we were like, let's just do 2. And then I was like, no, let's each pick 3.
Oh my goodness.
And we'll do 6. And that's like not too many, but it doesn't feel like too small either. It was hard to narrow it down. Cause like you were saying, you want to help everybody, but at the end of the day, we all have only so much bandwidth, which is why it's important that everybody does what they can. But we just we were like wanting to focus on queer people and people of color and just give them money and do what they may with it. And we also have a raffle that we're going to be doing, a bunch of really awesome local businesses, Raven Rose Salon, Coco Coquette, Greenbelt Botanicals, CBD, all kinds of stuff that we're going to be raffling off during the show. And you can pay to call into the show, so you can be on the show if you want.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
Yeah, it's we're going to have a drag makeup tutorial in real time from Bumper. It's
what?
Gonna be
That's amazing. Ridiculous. That'll be like our next. I would love to have like drag makeup done and the whole thing. We haven't even talked about. We've already talked about this.
Bumper's just amazing in general.
So Katie and I are going to be doing a second. There's so much runway with Katie and things that I definitely want to talk about that we're limited by just the amount of time and with the new year coming up. But I know with this 2 Gays fundraise, that's one thing I would like to touch on is, like you said, the gay community as well as people of color, because I do feel those were 2 big things. I know during the summer, with as highly polarized as Austin was, and just the whole overall, just, America in general was in that sense. I know anytime that I like spoke up about it was just, I wanted to see if you had any kind of experience with that. Like, so during the summer, I mean, I didn't care, but it was one of those things where it was noticeable. I think I lost like 1,000 followers just from the simple fact that I was like stepping out and supporting, you know, people of color, and then supporting LGBTQ community. And that was something to me that I still don't quite understand how you can still feel that way in this day and age. And it's hard. Like, I went to school in Mobile, Alabama, where you were either black or you're white. And so, yes, exactly. So it was one of those things where I experienced racism firsthand. So I had to deal with my own shit this summer of things that I had kind of suppressed and kind of left, you know, living kind of in sheltered Austin. But I feel like being here in Austin, and even with the followers I have and the followers that you have you experienced any, like, did you feel any of that this summer, or was it mainly like you were good?
Most of the people on my page, I didn't get really anything like that. And if anybody had, like, if they were feeling confused or they didn't understand something, it was more of like a productive conversation. I thankfully didn't have anybody that was outright like saying horrible things. I mean, I had some like random trolls, you know, but nothing really where I was like, wow, can't believe I know you, sort of thing. Like, damn, I didn't have anything like that happen. I don't know if it's because I'm just such a loudmouth that people that are like, they just know, maybe if they're like bothered by saying Black Lives Matter, they're like, well, I'm definitely not going to follow her because she's just, you know, activist street over here. But yeah, I thankfully I didn't have any of that. I did have some semi-productive conversations with my parents, you know, do what I can. But yeah, it was, I think too, it's just important to note too that like people of color that are also queer are just like double whammied, and especially Black trans women are like the most at risk, which is really unfortunate. And I think are probably one of the last communities that even the queer community educates themselves about and supports, when a lot of our pop culture and a lot of style and a lot of like what we see as fascinating and beautiful and like next level stems from the trans community and stems from Black trans women and Black women in general. So just trying to like, I don't know, hopefully bring some attention to that, or at least like send some money their way is like the least that we could do. That's great.
Like I said, I personally, I grew up in San Antonio, and that wasn't something that I necessarily grew up around. You know, I played sports, and that was probably like my only real interaction with like lesbians, and not, you know, in just gays in general. But there wasn't, even going to college and going there, we didn't have a big gay community. So it's like I wasn't really exposed to it until literally my best friend from college, who I actually talked to yesterday, came out to me. And that was one of those things. But it was one of those things where I was like, you and I were like PICs in college with, you know, meeting guys. So it was something that I didn't understand, but I was open to it. And that was probably my first time that I felt like that love surpassed anything, that it didn't matter. It was like, well, if this what makes, you know, what makes you happy, even though I don't understand it, but it was very like, she was navigating it too, and she didn't understand too. And I'm sure there's like a whole other thing there, but for me, that was it. And it wasn't about me at all. Like, even then, that I just was like, I want to be here to support you. You're my best friend. Who you love is your choice. But it was definitely even an experience
for you.
For me, that was really like, I'd have to say that was my first like that kind of personal experience for me.
Right, on such a like heart to heart level. Because I think like, yeah, a lot of people have this idea of when they think of gay, they think of like a tall white man that's probably muscular, and he's like, oh my God, girl, let's like go shopping, you know? And it's like, that's so 2001. Not that like white, gay, femme men don't exist, but they're not the only like ones that exist.
Right. They're not the standard.
Yeah. And there's, so, I mean, I grew up in like a suburb in Texas and was raised really religious. We have so much to talk about on the next one. Trust me.
Yeah.
So I can relate to your experience and definitely to your friend. Fun term. It's called compulsive heterosexuality. Ooh. And when I learned that term, I was like,
okay, what is compulsive heterosexuality?
It's like just being straight because it's what you're supposed to do. It's like, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to like guys, so I'm going to only date cis men. And then you're like, when I like heard that term, I was like, oh my God. Wait, what? And that opened up a whole new like self-exploration journey.
Wow.
But, yeah, you know, and then it had me being like, well, did I actually like men, or was I just like, I think I'm supposed to be with a guy, you know? So it's definitely, I think, coming out, that's really amazing your friend came out to you. That means that they trust you a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, when somebody comes out, that doesn't mean they're like, I'm done. It's like, it actually is just getting the process started, at least for me and some of my friends. I can't obviously speak for everybody, but I feel like me finally coming out was me just getting the ball rolling. And I feel really honored when you say that, like, I'm somebody that's an important person in the queer community, because I feel so new here, and there's so many people that have like come before me, and so many people in Austin even that are just like incredible, and I'm like, hi.
Well, who are some of those people that have influenced you that you would say are in the Austin community that people should know about? I know, I'm sure there's a whole laundry list of people, but just some off the top of your head.
To go just look on my Instagram. Well, Bumper for one, and these are also people in New York too. The Bumper, Pixel Witch, Blaine Petrovia. Oh man, who else? Diego Duran, Leggy Bean, also known as Ellen. There's just a lot of people. Kiki Aviles, for obvious reasons.
Who dat Kiki? Love me some Kiki.
Kiki, I love her. She's great. And I mean, I don't even know. It's hard because I'm just like, there's so many people.
Oh, I bet.
Like, nobody's above the other. Y2K and Pink Star are also really amazing. Belladonna, and fucking, God, I'm like only remembering an Instagram name right now, but Park Avenue Buta, but I know her name, but it's totally slipping under pressure. There's just Vivian. Yeah.
Well, what's great too is that I'm sure all of these people that you've mentioned, they've inspired you and they've influenced you, but they probably all have their own stories of people that have influenced them and come before them. So it's like, if you can keep that momentum going and keep building on top of that, then you're just going to create, like you said, more inclusion, more awareness, and just continue to grow that.
I hope so.
You will. But I completely agree with you. That was when you were talking, like that literally was the process that I went through with my friend of her, the, you know, compulsive heterosexuality. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's like compulsory or compulsive.
Compulsory.
Close enough.
That was something that, and not to like put all her business out there, but it was just such a big part of our friendship because she was my best friend and she was somebody that was going through it. And I was trying in that moment. I remember just being like, well, I thought you liked guys, like, cause I didn't understand it at first, and it wasn't anything about being gay or like, oh, I don't, it was just like, I just don't understand, because for all this time, you know, this was what you wanted. But then seeing her now and her girlfriend, Alicia, I love them so much. And they're going to clown me. We clown each other literally daily, or whenever I talk to them. But it's just such a special bond to see them together and to see her happy and to see that and to think that she would be mistreated anyway. Like I would beat some fucking ass. So that's how, like, that's my girl. So, and same for you. And I hope, you know, I can do whatever I can to support you, be an advocate for you. And I hope that this has at least opened the eyes of some people to understand.
Fingers crossed.
More.
The kitty still loves me. The kitty loves you. Don't be homophobic.
But I just want to tell you, thank you so much. Again, this is just part 1. We are 100% having a part 2. We are going to do makeup, hair, outfit.
We're gonna get full look.
We're going to do dances. So yeah, you see her now, but wait till you see part 2 that we're gonna do. We're gonna do that in the new year. But make sure you tune in Saturday. So how can people find you and find this fundraiser?
Yeah, so they can find it. Sorry, I got a kitty. They can find it on my Instagram, KD Kinetic, and we are streaming on twitch.tv/capyak. And all the info is posted all over my Instagram, just like the last 3 posts. And then also my co-host, his Instagram is Olaf Loves You, and it's all over his Instagram as well. That's pretty much the main source of Two Gays Fundraise information. And yeah, tune into Twitch anytime on Saturday, starting at 2 p.m. until Sunday at 2 p.m.
Oof. You never know.
And you don't know what you're going to see. Well, we'll post the schedule, but I mean.
What's something, can you give us a sneak peek? What's something like you're going to get really weird with it? Like I want to know what's happening at like after midnight.
Yeah. Well, oh God, we have the Gay Awakening Hour / Back to the Closet happening at 4 a.m. when we kind of talk about when we were straight, kind of like what we were
Oh my goodness.
But like showing photos of ourselves, kind of heartfelt, but also talking shit. I'm really excited for cocktail therapy with grandma, and my queer grandma is going to come on the show.
Oh my gosh.
And we're going to take people's advice questions and give them advice as grandma gets more drunk. I'm also excited. So at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., once I've been streaming for like, you know, a good 20 hours, I'm going to do ASMR. And have like a self-care ASMR moment. And we have the Gay News morning segment at 7 a.m. That's just some of it.
That's great. I can't wait. I can't wait to tune in. Steve and I were just saying, we're like, well, we know what we're doing. We're going to be watching. We're just going to have it on the TV and just be like running errands, come in.
Tab open.
Oh yeah. I just have it on my phone. That's what I did with your last show. I just had it. I was like in HUB, like watching your show.
Oh, thank you.
So.
And we will have closed captions. I forgot to say that. There's live closed captioning on the show. Hopefully they go and work really well, but it should be accessible in that way as well.
Wonderful.
Hopefully.
We'll make sure that everyone's hooked up. I will put all the links and everything in this. I'll have the links in my bio as well for you. But if there's anything else that you need or you think of, if y'all can like and share and do all the wonderful things.
Share that shit.
Share it. We need to spread the word and raise as much money as we can for these 6 organizations. So Thank you so much, Katie, for being here. I know we'll have so much more to go into. I'm already excited. So you got a sneak peek tonight, but just wait. A little sneak peek. You have fun with your kitties and your kitty. Kiki kitty.
Kiki and the kitties.
It sounds like a band.
Oh my God.
Well, thank you so much. And we will, like I said, we'll see you soon.
Yay.